You took longer than you said.
How did you know we were going to come down there?
Because we've watched other people do it. We've watched people cut the corner. Do you want us to carry your rucksack? Because it's a hell of a long way back anyway. Absolutely desperate for a way. We've got this view so often.
You know what it's like, it was a proper accident. Yes.
Okay, should we get started? At long last, I'm sorry about this, it's all taking rather longer than we expected this morning, but first of all, good morning everybody. Good afternoon. First mistake, okay. Easy for you, I'm not in the bar yet. 40th Across Wales Walk. For this special celebration year, we've come back to, I suppose, what we consider our ancestral home, that being Clun, much as we did for the 25th anniversary in 1988. I want to split the ceremony today into two parts. Firstly, concentrating on yesterday's event, culminating in the presentation of the certificates, and secondly, to have a retrospective view of the Across Wales Walk over the years since the first event in 1964. So, and I'm hoping that in a change from previous years, it's going to mean more of other people talking and less of me, which I'm sure you'd concur with. And finally, we'll be finishing off with Bob's vegetarian chili and some bread, hopefully later on, before we head off home. So anyway, let's start with yesterday's event. I think it's clear that after a long hot summer, there's always a strong risk of some form of spectacular breakdown in the weather. And the organisers of the Across Wales Walk are only too aware of this, particularly in 1976, that very long hot summer that I'm sure most of us can remember, where conditions were so bad that year that the event was stopped at checkpoint 3 and only 8 walkers went on. So, I mean, my blood pressure has been linked to the long-range forecast for Aberystwyth for the last week or so. And from 5 days out, it looked promising, but it went less so. And the last graphic I saw was for a black cloud with the sun peeping behind it, a single raindrop and a zigzag of lightning. I think we ended up with 3 out of 4 in the end, unless somebody can tell me otherwise. Anyway, later on in the day, as we all aware, conditions turned out to be virtually ideal. Great conditions for checking and walking. So basically, 1976 didn't happen this weekend. A total of 13, which is actually quite a low number of retirements for such a large field. So 126 people finished, which is by far the largest number of completers that we've ever had in this event. Fastest time this year was by Vince Thwaites, who finished at a clock time of 13:19 in a total time of 8 hours 21 minutes. Vince, where are you? So next home in equal second were three walkers, or runners I suppose I should say, Richard Gilks, Robert Gilks and Philip William, and they finished at virtually 2:30 in a time of 9 hours 34 minutes. And as is often the case, Philip's time was remarkable in that he was on the return leg of a double crossing. Please, Paul Massey. Bill Lancashire. Lamb. Kathy Tyson. October 1964, the start of the swinging 60s, just try and put it into some sort of context. For the Beatles, it was a hard day's night, and I think we know what we're all about, I tell you. Turning down. For the Supremes, it was Baby Love. Roy Orbison sang Pretty Woman. On Associated Rediffusion Television, you could see the Beatles, Ready Steady Go, Steptoe and Son, and if you were posh and had the right aerial, you could pick up BBC Two and watch Play School if you wanted. Elsewhere, Kuhn, who was deposed by Kosygin. Harold Wilson won power for the Labour Party, and the Chinese exploded the first atom bomb. Who do we think this is? Hairstyle hasn't changed much. Hold on a minute. You've not seen the worst yet. Who's that? Caravan step made out of plumbing fittings. No, my dad wouldn't buy one, I tell you. Dear. Okay, so who's this? Can't see, no. Let's try that one. Roy Millard organised the first Crosswells Walk. Approaching checkpoint 3. Roy Millard.
If you your legs, you'd recognise those. That's about all. I'm glad Bob Stuart's reminded me of something that happened 39 years ago, some of those events, because I can't remember things that happened yesterday. Can you? One of the things that happened to me was that I had an excellent walk, and I walked with a Welshman who taught me how to say Nant-y-Moch. And I've always said, in good English, it's Nant-y-Moch. Or in Brummie, I suppose, it's Nant-y-Moch. So when I mention Nant-y-Moch, now it's the English version. I hope Colin will forgive me. I joined the West Birmingham YHA in 1957. And the group was consisted of all young people, except a few really old people in the 40s. I know we were going to And we hostel nearly every weekend. It was a regular thing for us. Nearly every weekend throughout the year. We'd like to fill our card, but every year we'd hostel. And quite often we walk between hostels, probably sometimes 20 miles plus between hostels. And so we joined in Neville's. Neville was organising Mid-Wales marathons in those days. We joined in Neville's walks and also took part in the South, the Shropshire Summit Walk. So we were doing fairly long walks for those days. And one of these hosteling weekends, we decided to walk from Clun, where we are now, to Nant-y-Moch, which is over by rail, about 35 miles. And there was about 5 of us attempting this walk. And we worked the route out and we got going. And I suppose we crossed this area that we go very close to now, the Blue Brook area of central Wales. And while we were doing this walk, we thought it would be possibly within our reach to walk from the border to the sea. So it was left to me, because I was rambling leader, to sort a route out and see how we could do it. So we walked from, not from Clun, but from Palindra, which is probably about a mile south of where we walked from now. Basically because we were offered a cottage in that area that we could use as a base for our Friday night, and the walkers stayed there at the cottage. And most of the checkers stayed, the checkers that we got stayed in Honorbury at another member's house. And we walked to Bourth Hostel because it was, really we wanted to finish up as a hostel. And the warden at Bourth was very cooperative. He says he was delighted with the idea and he would do anything to help us along with it, including staying open late at night to provide meals for people when they came in, if they came in late. And also he agreed to check part of the route for us. So it was left for him to look at the route from Nant-y-Moch down to the sea, including crossing Bargle. I think we more or less went, it was just a club weekend to start with, so we more or less just went along, reading the map and navigating our own way across, starting from Palindra and travelling south of where the wind farm is now. I'm going northwest from that area.
Mommy,
Yeah, the route isn't quite right on there. So, but that is roughly what we did. We started from Palindra, so just a little bit south. So we're walking a little bit further south starting and a little bit further north finishing. It took us about 15 and a half hours as 12 of us walked it, one dropped out. And it took us about 15 and a half hours, and of course we had our checkers, which my wife lived there, was there doing the checking, and John's wife Angela, John is here, and so they were. It was all very basic, but they were providing us with encouragement and nourishment all along the way. I think when we got to, one of the things I was to say was that I asked the warden if he'd looked at the route, the part of the route from Nant-y-Moch Chapel, and he said he would investigate it, and he got in touch with me and he said, I think you ought to revise your thinking, he says, because it's now underwater. They'd built the dam and that was it. I mean, we didn't know about that. But I've recently looked at the map and realised that we decided on our checkpoint to put it about a mile away from where the dam is now, because we got no idea where the dam was. So we went from Nant-y-Moch, and instead of going round the dam, we planned to go straight across the middle of the water. So we had to revise our route as we went along. Going up to the second checkpoint that we'd put up there, we waited for the girls to arrive with our nourishment and food, and they didn't get there. Unfortunately, this cottage that we'd borrowed had got a drive at the front, which was just thick, deep mud, and they got the car stuck, so they couldn't make it. They found us about a mile further along the road and met up with us and gave us this food that we were desperate for by then. So eventually, I mean, we got to Bourth late in the evening. We found our way across the bog, and that was okay. So that was basically the very first walk. Oh, these are a couple of happy chappies, aren't they?
Just look at the faces on these walls.
Yeah. Yeah, you see they're really enjoying themselves. This is actually, after that first walk, we decided that because it was so successful and we really enjoyed it, that we'd open it to the Birmingham area groups to join us. And hostling was quite thriving in the Midland area. So the Midland area group joined us for the second year, and that was a success. This was our card at the checkpoint, which is further north. So the old Port Popular and the Ilmanuskin. Yeah. And so they joined us, and that was pretty successful. One story that came out of that walk was that a group of the West were determined to set a record. I mean, it was 15 hours, and we finished up absolutely shattered after that first walk. So there was a group on the second year decided to set a record, and they were going for the end, and this one chap from the Solihull group had joined them, and he needed to be navigated across. He didn't know the route at all. So they led him all the way across, and as they were going back down on the last stretch down into Poole, he says, if I run in front now, he said, I could make the record on my own. And one of the chaps from the West, he says, if you do that, I'll break your legs. Yes. And that was the second walk. We finished up. This is the finish up board. We just doubled athletes in the sea. But after that first walk, when we couldn't move, the second walk, we finished up playing cricket on the beach. They actually did it in 13 hours and 10 minutes. We couldn't get them off the beach to receive the certificates. The second year, it was such a big contrast to the first. And so then we decided to make it, open it up as a national event on the third year. And we had a cut-off time of 43. It was limited by the number of people we get in both hostel. Also that second year we had a problem with people. We had the last person arrive at 1 o'clock in the morning. And the warden there was still trying to provide food at that time. So that was when we set up the cut-off times at the checkpoints, the later checkpoints. And then the third year that we organised it as a national event was really when Viv and I dropped out and left it to Bob to carry on with it. You can see John, who's doing this video, he's a chap on the left. So he did the first three, and he also did the 25th with me. And I had to stop him doing it this time because I wanted to be the only one that would do the first and the 40th. Viv is down in the middle, and Angela is John's wife. So those are a few, the checkers and the walkers. I think 12 walkers and the rest are doing the checking. And that was that's about it as far as I'm concerned with the walk. I mean, I'm just going to say that I've come back after 25 years to do the 25th walk, having done nothing, put nothing in and done nothing towards a walk in all the intervening years. And I decided to do the 25th. And since then I've done it every 5 years. And really enjoyed it. I think it's a great walk. It's a much better route now than when we did it to start with. So it's a very enjoyable walk. And I think a lot of this probably mostly due to Bob, who's worked tremendously hard and kept it going all these years. I'm just pleased that I can come back and still take part in it when I feel I want to. And I'm really pleased that Bob and Stuart and all this backing team that I've got behind me, that does such a wonderful job, has kept it going all this time. I'm really pleased.
Thank you very much, Roy. Very illuminating. Okay, let's just move along the timeline a little bit further now. Quite a few things happened in the 60s and 70s. Unfortunately, our archives are a bit thin as to exactly what happened in whichever year. But the finished move from Bourth to Aberystwyth, I think, around about 77, and then in 78 it moved to where it finishes now at Clara.
Was that yours? Was that quiet?
As I said, 76 was a bad year for the weather-wise. 84 was a pretty bad year as well, weather-wise. But it basically heralded a new era, double crossing. And the person who did that started, actually. Because certain other people, that was, I think, his first and last double crossing. Others have taken up the cause pretty extensively, and particularly this bloke, Richard Rosser, John Hodges, and this chap, Clive Lungmas, Peter Stevenson, Peter Gretton, the incredible Philip William, Susan Denham-Smith, the first woman, Phil Newman. Who's that? Double click. Martin McGreary, Mike Pinner, Mike Gammon, Wyn George, and of course Roderick Holland started with the double last year. Now all in all, that's 46 doubles over that period. But of that 46, Richard was responsible for 13 of them, and Clive responsible for 10, in fact now 14 with Richard's yesterday. So who better to tell you a bit about doubling? Richard and Clive.
Well, when Nev came into Anchor in 1984, doing a double, and then returned to the coast, people who greeted it with the same incredulity as Roderick's triple this time. They just didn't really believe it was happening. Nev wasn't alone on his outward journey. He was with company, but his companion retired at Anchor, I believe, and I don't know that person's name or anything else about them. So Nev made it back and went down in history, and his companion disappeared completely. And 89, we did doubles. He retired in 88 at checkpoint 1 on the way back. He wasn't well, he had glandular fever, I think, and was washed out. I mean, he didn't know better not to start, but you don't want to think too much about it if you're going to do a double. In 1990, for those of you who do hundreds, you probably remember there were 200s on. There was a Shropshire 100 on August Bank Holiday, and the Across Wales Walk was the following weekend. So I thought, there's no way I could come out of 100 and do the Across Wales Walk 6 days later. But 1990, it was my golden year by far, my best year ever. And I came out storming from the 100. So even though I hadn't entered the Across Wales Walk, I started walking from Aberystwyth at 12 o'clock on the Friday afternoon. I got to the border at 12:30 at night. Of course, there was no one there. No one going to be there for 4 hours, so I turned around and walked back. I think the early checkpoint was just setting up as I got there, and they offered me a cup of tea. And they were just setting up the finish, and I got back just after 2 o'clock. in the afternoon, so that was my best time, but it wasn't possible.
The mid-60s, advertising a walk across Wales. And to be honest, I'm ashamed to say it didn't really turn me on. No, you'd be missed. And the following year I saw it again, and a walking mate of mine at the time, one Stan Appleton by name, he gave me a ring. He said, "Hey, you want to come and do this now? It's a cracking walk." And I said, "Oh, I don't know." "Okay, then I'll come and do it with you." And I don't know whether it was because we had superb weather, it was brilliant, or what it was, but I really took to it. Partly, I think, because Stan was pretty quick on his feet at the time. We got a bit competitive, and I don't know, there was more knack of him or me 2 miles or so from the finish. And I watched his face, and you know what it's like if you prick a balloon and everything just goes... Stan did that, and I thought, thank God for that, I've got a chance. And we just came down steadily into Borth, and I really enjoyed it, and well, you can see where it got me, can't you? Don't...